Hello, adventurers, and welcome to our first video podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and I'm here with Ranger Liz. Aren't you going to say hi?
I'm waving.
And our own Lich Lord Bryan.
Hello. That name's still up for debate.
Not really.
I put it in the credits last time, so
yep.
you're now stuck with it.
Okay.
And we're welcoming you to our not only first video podcast, but the first week of December podcast. And this week, we're going to be talking about...
Various things.
Less of systems review this time, or talking about the games we're thankful for. We're going to be talking about two things that are going to be related to the wonderful, cold, snowy weather outside. That's quite frightful. And a game that's quite delightful.
Yeah, you qualify as frightful.
you can ask. Yes, frightful.
Okay.
So,
Delightful is debatable.
I'll be starting us off, and I'm going to be talking about the use of Arctic cold settings in your games. So, one of the things to consider is when you're playing that in the cold, things are going to be obnoxious. Things that you would think would be pretty common are actually going to be pretty tough. Even just walking can get quite hard. We here live in Wisconsin, so we know what it's like to wade to the school bus with your hips deep in snow.
Well, also, consider any of those possible snowy or ice levels you might encounter in a video game where everything is covered in ice and you end up slipping and sliding everywhere and end up falling right off a cliff. That's something also you need to bear in mind.
Exactly.
There's a lot of ice.
There's going to be a lot of ice. There's going to be a lot of snow. Walking is going to be harder, so travel times are going to be longer. Visibility is going to be lower, too, particularly during a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Now, when you're using the Arctic kind of template, I'm going to go to Exalted, and I'm going to be talking about the North, which is a great Arctic environment. It is cold, snow up to your genitals. The people have a hearty diet, pretty much rich in proteins, fats, and that's to help keep them warm.
And probably also because that's mostly the food that they can find.
Yeah, that's true. During the winter, they're not going to have much vegetable. In fact, their growing season's pretty short. So They
need to invest in greenhouses.
Yes, they need to invest in greenhouses.
Hydroponics.
Kind of advanced technology there.
There's magic. They can figure it out.
Okay. We'll get those returning Twilight cast solars on that. But one thing to always consider is that, characters, for example, you're going to have characters who might be vegetarian, suddenly in an environment where vegetarian food, or at least vegan food, is unobtainable. Most of the people are eating meat and dairy to stay warm because that's what they have. And if you tried to follow a strict vegan diet in such an environment, you might end up freezing to death because there's not enough of that high heat burning fuel in your body.
Jeremiah Johnson would never survive as a vegan.
Yes. So,
Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
another thing to consider is when you're in these kind of environments is the people are going to be more robust. They're going to be more girthy. They're going to run into more portly people in a cold environment.
They might also run across some more grumpy people.
Yes, particularly during winter.
During winter.
Yes, particularly during winter when the days are going to be shorter. People tend to be happier when there's more sunlight.
Well, yeah, because you're not getting enough vitamin D.
Exactly.
Now, does Exalted have a point in the world that is that is like night all the time at parts of the year?
Not really.
No Arctic Circle?
No Arctic Circle.
Okay.
The world is pretty much flat.
But it's not Discworld, right? It's not flying around on a giant turtle's back?
No. It's floating in a sea of chaos.
Okay.
The thing to consider there is, if your setting, unlike Exalted does have an area like Arctic Circle,
that's a lot of fun to pull on your players, because having their characters lose track of time...
Doesn't matter if it's winter or summer. It's fun either way.
It's fun either way. If it's sun 24 hours a day, that makes it harder for them to sleep. If it's dark 24 hours a day, that makes it harder to be awake.
Well, even with the sun going down earlier, like the other day, I was sitting around minding my own business, and it was suddenly super dark in my room. And I think I was playing Half-Life. No, it wasn't Half-Life. It was something else. I was playing something else. It was super dark in my room. I could hardly see my keyboard, and I'm like, oh, it's probably 7 o'clock or something. They're going to be home soon. I better see what we're going to have for dinner. I can't believe it's this late. I realized it was only 4.
Yeah.
I was freaking out. And it was only 4 o'clock.
Yes, so that loss and disruption of time is another fun thing that as a GM, storyteller, or whatnot that you can play with when it comes to winter and Arctic environments. Always, I recommend, as just a good way to change things up, most of the time we play games in a temperate environment. So the winters aren't harsh. Generally, we have the weather be fairly mild, because having these inconveniences on the GM or even the players, just pop up one week and then, we're done here, we're going to move on, just seems kind of trivial and kind of boring. So, if you want to do a game that's set in an Arctic environment, let your players know so that they can at least gear up their characters a little, have them pick up some cold weather gear.
Lots of butter.
And lots of water. Because otherwise they're going to have to melt snow to get some of this.
And cold environments also tend to be dry environments. So don't think, just because you guys aren't in a desert, you're suddenly fine. No, it's still... winters are usually very dry, very easy to spark things.
And it's easy to get dehydrated during the winter because you're not sweating, you're not thinking, I'm losing water.
Yes.
Yes, one of the things people don't realize is the largest desert in the world is Antarctica.
Yes. So, I will look forward to, in comments, hearing about your experiences with Arctic set campaigns.
And speaking of Arctic set campaigns, I used to run one, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. And you know the hardest thing for me to do?
What was that?
Try to remember what kind of creatures live in Arctic settings.
That is true.
We are so used to, as GMs, having temperate zones that you can have pretty much whatever you want. Oh, you happen to be in a slightly more wintry area. Well, I'll throw some slightly wintry creatures at you. Oh, we're now in a desert or savanna. I'll throw these at you. You have a wider variety. Once you decide, I'm going to do an Arctic setting, you have to remember Arctic creatures.
Yeah.
And that's segueing into my topic.
All right. And next week I'll talk more about, just some general creatures. But Liz, you have a very special creature.
Yes. There is a dragon that typically is overlooked in D&D.
Oh, which one is that?
I don't even think that we often hear of it or see much of it, and that's the white dragon.
Not to be racist.
No, not to be racist. But you generally see, the red dragon, definitely the red dragon. The red dragon, it's everywhere. I even seen the black dragon. I think there was a movie, usually D&D movies are stupid, but I think there was one with a black dragon in it.
Yes, actually.
I remember that very skull-looking face, and that's the D&D black dragon.
And it had a cameo from a white dragon in it, too.
Did it?
Yes, it did. The white dragon showed up, killed the priest, and left.
Efficiency.
It's
Yes.
efficiency. Most people joke that was when the player who was playing the priest character dropped out of the campaign.
Well, he probably either dropped out of the campaign or ticked off the GM and quit shortly after he just randomly got eaten by a dragon. But white dragons live in cold climates. They typically avoid the red dragons. They're also not very intelligent. So you gotta keep these things in mind when you're playing them. And when you play, when you have normal dragons in a campaign, you generally think, okay, dragons are smart, they're conversing. White dragons, you're not gonna have so much of that with. They're more animalistic. So they're gonna be the more savage type dragon that you sometimes think of in certain movies, where they're just flying around and just,
I wouldn't really
being a
classify
dragon.
any of the base chromatic or base metallic dragons as being abnormal, though.
No, they're not abnormal. It's just when you're thinking of the movie dragons tend to be more feral in nature as opposed to intelligent, while more in games they tend to be more intelligent than feral. That's sort of my noticing.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't really reason with a white dragon, because
No.
if it's showing up, or if you're in its lair, it's thinking, oh, lunch came to me.
Yes. And so that's something to consider, is for a creature. If you have them interacting with other dragons, just know they would try to avoid the red dragons. Red dragons don't think much of them, because they aren't very intelligent, and they are also the smallest of the dragon species. Or at least of the chromatic dragons. I don't know about the metallic, but I think they are the smallest overall. And, is that white dragons have very good memories. So, that could be something you could have in play if you're doing, like, an evil campaign, where maybe you have to get some information out of a white dragon, or it's seen something, because they'll remember it. Especially if it was almost a traumatic experience for them. They'll have very distinct memory of it.
Not to mention a slight against a white dragon, it's going to remember.
Yes. So, those are different things that you can add into a campaign. So just don't forget, if you're doing an Arctic campaign or a wintry type setting, don't forget the white dragon. That's one of the creatures you can use.
Most definitely. But first, we're going to be taking a short break. And we're back! So, Ryan.
I didn't have anything winter themed to talk about, so I was just going to talk about a game I've been playing. Most people on the internet would know it. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. I've been playing the base game, and I'm trying to play the sequel to it as well. For those of you who don't know Five Nights at Freddy's, you are playing the game as a security guard, trying to ward off the animatronics at a creepy Chuck E. Cheese. They're coming for you, and if they find you, they're going to stuff you into a suit. Big things I have to say about it is it's hard. The jump scares aren't bad if you can keep track of them. It doesn't mean you aren't going to get jumped at by them, but keeping track of things is where it is key for that game. But the big thing is it's hard. The characters move at random, and even when you think you've got it right, in that 2 seconds you're not watching that door, they're going to get you. They can get you quite easily. I did post a couple of comments on the Facebook page about playing Five Nights at Freddy's. I actually managed to beat Night 6 in the first game. I'm working on Night 2 in the second game, but that game is ridiculously harder. Anything? I'm trying to think what else I should say about the game.
Do you know, with the music box, what that's supposed to in Five Nights at Freddy's 2?
The music box, from what I've heard, is supposed to keep the marionette or the child one away. It's supposed to keep him occupied. That's what I heard. I don't know, honestly. I can't figure out how to play Five Nights at Freddy's 2 right now. If anyone has any tips for Five Nights at Freddy's 2, please post them in the comments, because I'm struggling at Night 2. They keep getting me, and I'm not. It's not just one thing. Everyone's getting me. I might try Night 7, all 20s again, but the last time I tried that, it did not go well. I think I was out in 30 seconds.
No, I have also played Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't believe Nathan has.
No,
but
not yet.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Okay.
I have a friend who decided to purchase it, but she is like me and doesn't like jump scares. So she felt that she'd be less scared if she either had somebody with her or that she could just watch somebody else play it. So I went over and I played it, and I will agree, the first couple of times you get the jump scares happen, it can be ugh. But then after that, I mean, yeah, every now and then they can get you, but otherwise you kind of get an idea as to when they're going to happen, and you can go, okay, yeah, let's just get it over with so I can try again.
Well, most of the jump scares I get in the first game, I know exactly when they're happening when I lose in the first game. Because it's always Chica or Bonnie that get me in the first game if I fail. Occasionally I get hit by Freddy if I lose track of him and I don't shut the door before checking the camera. And I rarely, if ever, get caught by Foxy because I'm always checking Foxy. But it's always Bonnie shutting down the door on the left side or Chica shutting the door on the right side that gets me. And as soon as the doors go, I just go, okay, look at the camera. Hey, you jumped at me. Good job. The problem with Five Nights at Freddy's 2, I didn't enough to know the timing of everyone yet, so I know when people are going to be coming after me. Because I still have very little clue when people are actually coming at me in Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
I heard that one is very sound based.
Yeah, that might be my problem. That might be my problem as well, because I never got into a habit of listening to sound in the first one.
Yeah.
So maybe I have to figure out what the sounds do and what they mean in Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
All I know is I've heard it was very more sound based. You have to listen more to what's going on.
That might be the case too. So it's just a game I'm probably going to grind my way through. I'm not letting this game beat me.
And we were also talking about a live-action version of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, if anyone can figure out the logistics of getting, like, the cameras together and maybe, like, software for a phone for power, it might be fun just to do a live roleplay version of it, but there's a few logistic problems we have to work out.
That, and we also make sure there's a waiver. You sign a waiver, so if you die of a heart attack, you can't blame us.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're not gonna have, as I said, we're not gonna have actual. We're just gonna have people dressing up a little bit.
Yeah, but still having somebody jumping out and scaring somebody who's already on the borderline of a heart attack.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I know. But the game's fun. For a little while, the later nights are just super stressful. But keep coming out with them. The only problem I have is the little bit of the randomness. And then again, if they weren't as random, you could pretty much time it then, which would make it a little less fun. But I just gotta not take more than a second to look at everything.
I'm going to be talking about a new miniatures company called Minx Miniatures. I kickstarted them and my package actually just arrived. This is my male cleric who I will bring closer to the camera. As you can see, currently mostly unbuilt, or actually completely unbuilt. Just a figure in a packet here, but easily constructed. Because they're resin, highly customizable. That is one thing I do like about resin, is that it is easier to do custom modifications. Also, another thing I like about resin is that it holds the paint better than metal.
Okay.
While metal miniatures, I think, have just as good or sometimes better detail. Female fighter.
Now, what's the scale of these?
This is your standard D&D scale, 35 millimeter.
Okay.
And female paladin. So, great detail on these. I love how these turned out. Almost no warping at all. All in all, I would say these are very well-made miniatures.
Let's go.
And
I've seen one of them.
pass those around. Honestly,
That is pretty good.
yeah.
That is.
Honestly, I have a feeling we'll be able to see more of these coming up. You know,
That's
a lot of
35
these.
millimeter base?
Yep. Same, or not 35 millimeter, but
30?
Yeah, it's the same as the Iron Kingdoms figure, I believe.
Okay. So, heroic scale.
Yeah, standard heroic scale miniature. So, it
Even-
seems like a lot of the companies are going resin these days, just because of the Indian tin price hike. So, you know, in order to be able to afford to keep producing product, a lot of companies have shifted away from the white metal and gone to, you know, resin, which travels better, I think, because the paint doesn't chip as easily on resin as it does on metal, because the resin's more porous and it has more grip on the figure. I
Plus,
think.
being a lighter figure, it doesn't move around as much.
That too.
There is a lot of cloth detail on this.
Yeah. So,
And
know,
are
I-
these for a specific game, or are they just models
they're
you can
just
use for
general
anything?
fantasy miniatures.
Okay.
So they put together a whole line of just general fantasy figures.
Okay.
I'll be actually putting a link to their site in the description
Cool.
so that you know, people can check them out.
How customizable can you make your figure? Or they just have generic lines they do right now?
They're right now just doing pretty generic lines. This one is, you know, just standard female fighter. You know, but
Okay.
if I wanted to, I could swap parts from her with parts from the paladin or parts from the cleric.
Okay. Nothing overly elaborate yet.
Nothing overly elaborate yet, yeah. But they did have a very wide line when including Heroes of Avalon.
Okay.
So, you know, they went through and did the Arthuric Knights as well.
Cool.
Okay.
So,
Definitely something to look at. Especially if you want something, some more different figures for
Yeah.
your characters.
which I know these definitely look like they're going to be a lot of fun to paint. I'll probably get them primed up and painted as soon as the weather turns warm enough to prime.
Okay.
So, with that, we come near to the end of another podcast. Does anybody have any Kickstarters or upcoming product releases that they'd like us to keep an eye on?
Just a reminder, I'll be doing the unboxing for the DMG next week.
Also, on Kickstarter from Onyx Path, this week starts the Wraith 20th anniversary Kickstarter, so definitely worth checking out. Again, a fairly reasonable donation gets you a deluxe edition book.
Okay.
So you'll get the cloth bookmarks and the free PDF download with that, including the early PDF. So
And this is for...
This is for Wraith.
Okay.
So you get to play as the ghost,
Okay.
trying to solve their own, how the hell did I become a ghost?
Okay.
And now a question. Last week, Liz asked us what our favorite dragons are.
Chromatic.
What our favorite chromatic dragons are.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, the question that will be posed is, what is your favorite class?
Ooh. I am going to have to say rogue, because as much as I love playing like a ranger or druid and so forth like that, I kind of like being a sneaky person as well. I like being able to tell anyone whatever I want and having them believe me. Being able to pick any lock and get to places where I'm not supposed to get to. And one of my favorite things to do is I never stole from any of the other players except for one person who stopped showing up. And we still had his character sheet. So he was just sort of always... His character was always there, but we always forgot he was there. And so one day I was like, screw it, I'm stealing all of his stuff and we can just kick this character to the side of the road.
Okay.
But I liked looking at everybody's character sheet and being able to see what items they had and keeping a little... I would go, oh, those are useful items, and I would keep track of who had what. That way, if we were in the middle of a battle and I'm like, we could really use this, I could have my character yell out to somebody like, hey, does anybody happen to have a something? And so forth.
Yep.
Or, let's see what... and I also liked just flat out being able to, trick people and steal stuff. So, yeah, rogue. But shortly right after that, I think more than druid, I preferred ranger.
Okay.
I'm probably going to say wizard, just because the versatility of the class. Everything Liz said the rogue can do, the wizard can do with just one spell preparation. So, you unlock the door, I cast a second level spell. It's called knock.
Yeah.
I didn't fail. I had no shot at failing. You could have broken your picks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
actually,
plus, wizard just has a lot of fun things you can do with it.
As for me, my favorite D&D class, I would say, is the Paladin. For as much of, the bad rep that Paladins have gotten, for as much of the joke about how do you make a Paladin fall, or Paladin fall stories that go around the internet, the Paladin has always been one of my favorite classes, just because it is that person who tries to make the world a better place for having known them. It is that quintessential Don Quixote character. So I have a particular love of the Paladin.
Okay.
And with that, we will be back next week. Please post a question in the comment to have us answer. We would love to hear from you. And if you like our videos, please click that like button. And if you want to keep up with our podcasts, Let's Plays, and the Leveling Funds, and Dungeons and Dinners, click subscribe. Our next Dungeons and Dinner will be Dwarven Beef and Potatoes.
And seriously, I am planning on getting a D&D attack wing up soon, if it's not up before this video is.
Yes.
So...
Okay.
So we'll be looking forward to seeing that coming up soon. We have a tripod now, so that might actually help.
Yes.
Yes, and I have a Let's Play of Mega Protocol. I'm going to apologize. I did not have the tripod while shooting that.
If I didn't stop and go, maybe I should get out the tripod until after he returned with it, and I was like, oh yeah. And also somebody posted a comment going, pretty much, thanks for sharing, but you made me sick. On my D&D Attack Wing videos. So I was like,
So, yeah, apologies for the, if for anyone who watches the Let's Play for the camera angles.
Yes.
Yes. We are working to improve our videos.
Oh, and I'm trying to figure out when the next D&D Attack Wing wave is supposed to be coming out. But I don't think it's going to be till next year. I don't know. I keep going on WizKid's website, and they don't exactly have like this beautifully mapped out calendar of when things are supposed to be coming out or supposedly are going to be coming out and what will be. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hopefully soon.
I mean, I don't want them to rush it, but at the same time, I kind of would like to have an idea as to when they should be anticipating the next wave.
Okay.
All right. So, we will see you next week, and just remember,